Hey, what's up, guys? This can be a different kind of video, and this is a new type of video that I want to start making. More discussions. I like, not just Honkai Star Rail, but on Genshin as well. 'Cause I've been playing those games a lot, more so Genshin. But as a filthy gamer myself, even though I shouldn't have opinions, I have my opinions. But there's just a different type of video I wanted to make, where just discussions on you know, Honkai Star Rail theories, all that, how I feel about the game, how the characters, all that. And then basically what I wanted to talk about right now was essentially like kind of the state of the game of Honkai right now as of 1.6. And what I mean by that is when I say the state, the absolute state of this game. Um, no, the game's in a great state. 1.6 was a massive patch. Honkai Star Rail players are eating good. And as a Honkai Star Rail player and a Genshin player, bro, we out here begging for scraps in Genshin Impact. That's just the absolute truth. But here, basically what I wanted to say was, what I want to talk about was with Ruan Mei coming out, it's put some ideas in my head because the characters in Honkai Star Rail are getting really strong really fast. Because you have to go, we're only at 1.6, right? And this is presumably this game is going to be going on for at least 3 years, right? But we're only in 1.6, but these characters are already so fucking strong. Look at Imbibe de Lune, Blade, Jing Liu, and now we have Ruan Mei, who's just absolutely fucking broken, right? Okay, maybe not broken, but she's really fucking good, right? And then with all that happening, there's massive power creep, right? I mean, look what happened to my girl Zila, bruh. My Zila is probably the best built character I have on my account. Like, she's all maxed out. Her relics are crazy, right? All her relics are like decent, crazy at the minimum, right? But despite that, I'm still using Jing Liu. In most scenarios, I'm using Jing Liu, right? Like, Jing Liu is just better. It's just a better DPS than Zila in most situations. And I think Ruan Mei has like kind of exposed massive power creep. Well, not just Ruan Mei, but like Imbibe de Lune, Blade, Jing Liu, all of them show just massive power creep. To the point where it's like, well, what's the point where you kind of have to ask the question, what do we go from here? Like, how much stronger these characters are gonna get? Because think about how strong Imbibe de Lune is right now, and then eventually he's gonna get power crept. So how strong is that character gonna be when Imbibe de Lune gets power crept, right? So it's things like that where I'm like kind of thinking, it's like, okay, but I think what's gonna happen is this is just prediction, right? This is theory, a game theory. No, I'm kidding. But I think what might happen is Honkai Star Rail might end up in the exact same position as Genshin in terms of the strength of characters. What do I mean by this? Genshin has a massive issue of reverse power creep. Not power creep, but reverse power creep, where the older characters are stronger than the newer characters. Like, majority of the newer characters, even the 5 stars, even a lot of the 5 stars that came out recently, like in Fontaine, the older characters are better. Like, for example, perfect example, Wriothesley. Right? Wriothesley came out, but I'm telling you, if you had Ayaka, right? If you had Ayaka and she was good, you had no reason to pull for her because Ayaka was just better. Ayaka was just better than Wriothesley. She just did so much damage. Her burst just did way more damage because of the amount of ticks that it did. Like, reverse power creep is a very prevalent issue in Genshin. I mean, look at fucking Dea. They did my girl dirty in that game. And, I think that we're headed in that direction for Honkai Star. We're not there yet, and it's not going to happen anytime soon. But I think what might happen is maybe around the 2.0 mark, maybe a little bit further than that, we might start seeing characters that are worse than previous characters. Because right now, if you look at who's been power crept, right? You think of Jing Liu, not Jing Liu, Zila. You think of Bailu, Himiko. Yeah, I guess Himiko because of Argenti. I mean, Himiko was never good to begin with, so it wasn't hard to power creep her. But you think of these characters who've been power crept, right? And honestly, the only character, right? Yangqing, bro. Yangqing hasn't just been power crept, he's been sent to the bottom of the earth. My god, they did. Hoyoverse does not like this guy. They use him as a punching bag every chance they get. But my point is, the only characters on the standard banner that haven't been power crept is Bronya and Welt. Those are the only two characters that haven't been power crept. You can make an argument for Japard, but like, if you have Fu Xuan, I mean, they're not like, if you have Fu Xuan is just better than Japard. I mean, they do different things, but like, they're the same path, right? And if you had to choose, if you had to choose one or the other, right? If you had to choose a preservation unit, a sustainer preservation unit, you're probably going to choose Fu Xuan if you have her, right? So the only characters on the standard banner that haven't power crept are Welt and Bronya. Right now, honestly, I think Bronya is the only character on here that might actually never be power crept. That's a bold take. I think she's the only character in here that might actually never be power crept, just based on how much she does as a character. Like, it's difficult to power creep Harmony and Nihility characters because their kits are not based on damage, right? Welt isn't good because of his damage. Well, Welt does good damage, but it's not just because of his damage. It's because it's his ability to manipulate the action order, which is something that can't really be power crept, right? And Bronya is really good because of how much she's able to not just buff your team, but make them go again and again and again, right? So the reason why characters like Bronya and then Welt, why they're so difficult to power creep, it's because of their base kits, not because of the numbers that they output, right? Like, Bailu got power crept because Lorch is just a better healer. He does more healing. Yangqing got power crept because Jingliu does more damage. Clara. Has Clara been power crept? I mean, you could say she has been, but like, she's also not one of the top tier units. Like, Clara's not a first choice for anyone really, but she's decent unit. I don't know. Yeah, okay, to be fair, let's just say she's been power crept. I can't really say by who, but she's been power crept. Right, and then you look at Japard, right? You think about, okay, he's supposed to be preservation sustainer. When you have him, you're choosing him over an abundance character, right? You're using him over a healer, right? But who's another sustainer preservation unit? Fu Xuan. She does his job better, right? So right now, a lot of characters have been power crept. So, and because it's been so early on, it's like, where do we go from here? How much stronger are these characters gonna get? And in turn, all right, and then to compensate for how much stronger the characters are they gonna up the difficulty of like Memory of Chaos, your fiction, all that, right? Right. So they have already updated, like, you know, Memory of Chaos 1.6 they had added for 11 and 12, right? But what's going to happen a year from now in 2.6, right? How's the game going to look in 2.6? That's the question, right? Because you have to assume that this game is going to go on for at least minimum 3 to 4 years, right? That's what I'm thinking the lifespan of this game is going to be. Minimum 3 to 4 years, right? Probably a little bit more than that. So with Ruan Mei, right? With Ruan Mei, with how good she is and how much she just makes everybody in the game so much better, it begs the question, at some point the characters are going to plateau, right? At some point the characters are going to plateau of how good they are, and you might see a little slight drop off because, let's be real, they can't just keep increasing the numbers, right? They can't do that, right? That's kind of just flawed game design, right? You can't just bring a new DPS, right? You can't bring another destruction unit, and then the reason why the next destruction unit is better than Blade is because that guy just does more damage, right? They can't constantly keep doing that, right? They have to. That's the dilemma that Hoyoverse is in with this kind of game, right? A turn-based game where they have to make the characters interesting, not just do more damage. And that's where the reverse power creep will come in, because when we plateau, right, Blade already does a significant amount of damage. So if they don't increase the difficulty of the game in general, right, if they don't increase the difficulty of the game in general, which some would argue they should, some would argue they shouldn't. I think right now it's at a good place, because I think everybody should be able to clear everything in the game, right? Even free-to-play players. I think everybody, free-to-play players included, should be able to complete everything in the game. So the game should not be absurdly hard, right? But at some point, all things being equal, say the game doesn't get more difficult than it is right now, at some point the characters are going to plateau because they can't keep increasing the numbers of the characters. So then eventually there's going to be another wind destruction unit, right? Eventually there's going to be another wind destruction unit. So then you're going to ask yourself, why would I pull for that guy if I have Blade, right? Why would I pull for that next wind destruction unit if I have Blade, right? And one of the biggest reasons, well, there's two big reasons why you would pull for that character. One is because they're fucking hot. Let's be real. Like, I think people generally underestimate how people like will pull for characters purely because they think they're hot. Like, I'll be honest, that's what I did with Kafka. I pulled Kafka because she was hot. That's literally it. I will be the first to admit she's not that good. If I didn't have Ruan Mei, my Kafka would be kind of dog water. Like, let's just keep it 1,000. Kafka needs a lot to be good, and that's just the truth. You don't just need to build her, you need to build like 2 other Nihility units plus a buffer, right? So like, yeah, Kafka is like, Kafka's like, I don't regret pulling her. I still use her in the Memory of Chaos, and she does fine for me. But she's definitely like the only character I pulled for purely aesthetic reasons, right? And that's just not limited to just me. There's a very large amount of people that pull for characters purely because they are just hot, right? And the second reason is, are his numbers bigger than Blade? Or is that next destruction unit, is his numbers bigger than Blade, right? Those are the 2 main factors why people will pull for this guy, right? And then the third, okay, I guess there's a third one. You could say playstyle. No, but that's where the difficulty comes into play, because this game, you press 2 buttons, right? You press 2 buttons. So the thing that makes this game fun isn't how you press the 2 buttons. It's well, okay, no, let me rephrase that. The thing that makes Honkai Star Rail fun, it's not you just pressing the 2 buttons, it's how, when, and why you're pressing the buttons. It's the thought process. It's how much you have to think, right? The thing that makes the game fun is when you have to sit down and think about your next move, right? That's what makes Honkai Star Rail fun, because you work your brain, right? You have to think about your next move, and then when you finally complete that, you're like, oh my god, when you finally beat that hard content, you use your 500 IQ play with your brain, and you beat that hard content. That's what makes the game fun. That's what gives you that sense of elation, right? Right, so those are the 3 reasons why anyone would really pull for any character in this game, right? So at some point, they just can't keep increasing the numbers. It just wouldn't make sense to do that. Because then, if they were to just increase the numbers, eventually, if they do a Blade rerun again, right? When they do Blade's second rerun, why would you pull for him, right? Why would you spend money to get Blade if the next wind destruction unit is just better than him in every way imaginable, right? So I think slowly but surely, what we'll see to happen is 5-star units not really getting stronger, and like, I'm not gonna say they're gonna nerf the characters, right? I'm not gonna say they're gonna nerf the characters, because the devs for Honkai Star Rail have proven time and time and again that they deserve the benefit of the doubt. So I'm not gonna flat out say, oh, they're gonna do a fucking the Genshin devs did and just nerf Dea to shit. They like do a Dea 2.0. Like, I'm not saying they're gonna do that. But I think we're gonna start to notice is they're gonna start releasing characters, or at least what I think they should do. Right? And they might have actually already started, because as broken as Ruan Mei is, her playstyle is what she does is what makes her a good unit, not just her numbers, is what she does, right? So I think what they're gonna start doing is they're gonna probably start introducing characters where it's not the numbers, it's the playstyle, right? And they've already been doing that. Like Topaz, say what you will about Topaz and her damage output, her playstyle was pretty interesting, right? Topaz is one, Argentia is another, where he had like the two different ults, right? Who else? You know, like even Blade, you know, how you use his skill and then you do the enhanced attack, and then when he takes damage, he does a massive follow-up attack. You know, it's like, I think what they're gonna do is eventually they're gonna start seeing the damage number just plateau, and they're gonna start being very similar. And then what we're gonna see is how well or how interesting they make those characters to do that damage, right? Because I think what will be very interesting is if they made a character that like had two different skills, right? Not just a basic and a skill, like two different skills. That'd be probably interesting, right? But yeah, like these are just random intrusive thoughts that I've had with Ruan Mei coming out, with how I think what might happen, because you can't a lot of people, like, it's hard to, like, how do I explain this? When you talk about Honkai Star Rail, most of the time you're going to bring up Genshin, right? You're going to compare the two, right? And look what happened in Genshin, and like from 1.0 to like 2.0. I wasn't playing Genshin from 1.0 to 2.0. I started playing in 2.6 during Ayaka's never-ending banner. That's when I started playing. But from 1.0 to 2.6, I think the only like shit character they released was Klee, and then Klee, and then maybe Zhongli, but then they ended up buffing him anyway, so I guess he doesn't really count. Like, I'm trying to think, like, from 1.0 to 2.0, I think like the genuinely like the only shit character they released at the time, right? I'm not talking about 2025 or 2024 hindsight. I'm talking like at the time in 2020 to 2021, when they released all the 5-star characters from 1.0 to 2.0. At the time, I don't think there was a single bad unit other than Klee. That, I think, right? And then it wasn't until 2.0 happened, and then we started seeing more so with the 4 stars, not really 5 stars, more so with the 4 stars, they started seeing a decline in the quality of the characters. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen in the Honkai, because once again, the devs for Honkai have proven time and time again that they deserve the benefit of the doubt and how well they treat us. But it is a thought that I've just had, and it's just something that I feel like I'll talk about. It's like a nice form of discussion, right? So I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but it is something that to think about, right? Because, you know, the question always lingers. If they release a character that's this broken now, what are they gonna release in like 2.0, 2.1, right? Like comparison, like Ruan Mei, Wind Harmony. They drip marketed Sparkle, right? She's one of the Penacony characters. Is she one of the Penacony characters? I don't remember. Either way, Sparkle. She's supposed to be a Quantum Harmony. I don't remember if she's supposed to be a 4-star or 5-star, but for the benefit of for argumentative reasons, we'll just say she's a 5-star. I don't remember if she's a 4-star or 5-star. Well, let's just say she's a 5-star. When they release Sparkle, right? We have Ruan Mei and we have Bronya, two absolutely cracked units for different reasons, right? What are they gonna do in the future with fucking Sparkle? How are they gonna make her better or different from, or no? How are they gonna make her better than Ruan Mei and Bronya, right? It's like they can't constantly keep upping the ante, right? That's the thing with a problem with a lot of games, where when they release a new character or release a new character, they think what the biggest thing they need to do is make them better than the last unit. But I think what they should focus on is not make them better, make them different, right? Because if Jingliu and like Blade and Bible all did similar damage, like obviously keep the high damage, right? Keep the high damage output. but they all did similar damage, I don't think anyone would mind because it's very different playstyles, right? Now, I don't have him by Lune. I don't think I ever will get him, but from what I understand, he's like he's like a cracked unit. He does insane damage, right? So if Jingliu and Blade and Byron all did similar damage, I don't think like it would make that much of a difference in their pulls, like in their sales, because then that would incentivize people to pull for the characters that they genuinely like, they just want and think would have fun playstyles, right? That's just my opinion. I've been going on and on. I've been ranting. I've been going on different tangents because this is all scriptless. I don't use a script. I'm just literally saying this shit as it comes into my mind. So maybe it didn't make sense at some points, maybe, but this is just my first discussion. I just thought it'd be different. Thought I'd try it out. It was pretty interesting, but yeah, I will probably make more videos like this just because I have a lot of really dumb intrusive thoughts. But yeah, it's just food for the mind. Just something to think about. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the content. I'll see you guys next time.